So Twitter's up to something. They're removing thousands of QAnon accounts, promises sweeping ban on conspiracy. Well, we're going to find out exactly what that means. You know, Boris, what can you tell us about QAnon and everything else?
Okay, so QAnon, it's not organized. It's not. It is organized, but it isn't. There isn't no like hierarchy of, like a normal organization would be. But it's a bunch of accounts, a bunch of people who share a lot of conspiracy theories. They mix it with white supremacism. They mix it with theories like, for example, the Wayfair theory that has no credibility. It's been debunked by every fact-checking site, where basically the Wayfair theory was like, there's Wayfair is responsible in child sex trafficking and child trafficking because of products that they labeled that were more expensive, really expensive for what they were. And QAnon jumped on that story. It's either QAnon cultists and like the people who do it, who are part of it, they either jumped on the story or somebody from QAnon created the story and it went viral through the internet. And basically Twitter is saying here that they are going to take on the QAnon conspiracy theories, and they're going to start banning them and deleting these accounts from Twitter, because they are a private corporation. They have a right to determine what kind of messages are out on it and not at the end of the day. So that's sort of my little perspective.
Are you for them deleting the accounts?
Yes.
Let's take a panel around the panel. Vlad, are you for them deleting the accounts?
Honestly, I don't think I am for it, because I feel like it's, everyone has the right to free speech. I know Twitter is a private organization, but at the end of the day, they're trying to make people voice their opinion. You're tweeting your opinion out there. So, while I don't agree with conspiracy, I feel like, the action of them taking down the accounts is a little bit too aggressive in my take.
Monica?
I meet a lot of people at bartend, so like in my experience, a lot of people believe in crazy conspiracies, and most of the people that I meet have some one crazy conspiracy they believe in. And also, like, after Epstein case, can you really blame people for believing in it? I'm not saying that I believe in that conspiracy personally, but can you blame an average person for believing in a conspiracy theory that there is some, pedophile ring that, takes kids and like sells them in America? I don't blame them for it. Do I think that they lose their right to be on a platform like Twitter? No, I don't, because Twitter is very influential in terms of how it influences election and how it shapes public opinion, and it can get people fired, canceled, ruin lives, make somebody famous. Do I think that people should lose their right to be on that platform because they believe in that sort of conspiracy? No.
Veronica?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, I guess, agree with you guys in regards to like deleting the accounts. I mean, I don't necessarily believe in like those conspiracies. And I know, definitely like amongst like my peers and friends, like we've shared a lot of stuff that we found like online, but I think it's up to the person to really question it. And, I mean, there's even stuff in the news all the time that it may not necessarily be, factual all the time, but that's when you have to do your research and see if it's legitimate. A lot of that stuff has been debunked. I don't, at one point I was like, well, is the Wayfair thing real? I don't know, you know what I mean? And then I was like, you know what? It doesn't really make sense. It's just like, fireproofed cabinetry that was just overpriced, So yeah, I just think it's up to the person to really inform themselves. But when it comes to like, I know a few conspiracy theorists, it might be adding a little bit of fuel to the fire, but it's up to the person. We're in the age of information, so you should be able to do your research and debunk stuff for yourself.
No one's doing research out here. But Max, what do you think? Yes or no, or what are your thoughts?
I think this topic is kind of leads us into sticky territory here. With the issue of our right to free speech and freedom of the press, but then again, Twitter being a private company, where does that fall in the middle of this? Deleting these accounts, is it right, is it wrong? Until something is absolutely proven true or false, we have to be very careful about the spread of misinformation. I like to say sometimes the cure is could be more harmful than the problem itself. So we'll see what comes of these conspiracy theories. I mean, the Wayfair one has been debunked, but I think you have to be real careful when you're talking about deleting people's, if these are actual individuals sharing their stories, their ideas, you got to be careful in that in that aspect, in my opinion.
Censorship, and I'll give you the final word in a second, Boris. Censorship is it's sweeping under the rug. That's all it is. You know, that doesn't clean up the mess. It sweeps it under the rug. If you want to inform people opinions that you should have, and they leave a stupid post about something, you should automatically have a reply based on Twitter saying, hey, this theory has been debunked, this is nonsense, and the people who believe it are generally stupid. But at least let them say what they want to say, and then put that automatic reply. That's the fair way of doing things. But once you start censoring people's opinions, first it's Wayfair, sure, you could censor that bullshit, but then it's going to be something that's real, and then they're censoring it still. They don't believe it, you don't believe it. Once you give that power to people, and people being the bullshit people that they are, they're going to abuse it and use it and fuck things up. Boris?
Okay, so a little bit of context that I want to bring. I think we in America, and just generally in the world, we're in a time where we sort of forgot things that happened before World War II. 6 million Jews were killed. Why were they killed? Because some guy was reading books that were made by some Russian prince, a book called The Elders of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which basically said that Jews were taking over the world. It's a big conspiracy. They need to be taken care of. And some guy picked that book up, because that book was all over Europe. And he made a big deal about it, and suddenly 6 million people are slaughtered. Not to mention the millions other people who fought against this. So, you know, there's some thoughts and there's some theories that are just so egregious and so dangerous that we should not, as a society, allow them to be pushed forward. That's just, there's some things that cross the line. And when they cross the line, you know, if you're a corporation in a noble society, in a benevolent society, and you're a private corporation and you have people pushing white supremacist theories on it, and then they go viral, and then suddenly everybody, teenagers are reading it, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds are reading it, suddenly they're propagandized to believe this. You know, there has to be a limit to this. And Twitter is drawing the line. They're saying, this is the limit. We're not deleting majority of the things, but these theories that are on the way fringe, we're drawing the line.
The best way to battle a lie is with the truth, and not just to make the lie disappear. But I'll give you the final word, Monica, unless you wanted to say something.
I do understand where you're coming from, but the reason why Nazis gained such a big support in Germany was because there were huge fights between brown shirts and communists, kind of what's going on right now. Because there was a huge violence, and communists thought that the idea was to battle brown shirts on the streets. There was a huge rise in violence, and in a time like this, citizens usually embrace law and order, and that's what was the promise of Nazi Party. I'm saying that it wasn't only the fact that ideas were free, but there was also huge eruption in violence, huge economic consequences of reparations that were imposed on Germany, and people were starving. Right, and that's why Keynes came out and he said something is going to happen, something bad is going to happen in Germany, and it did. So you can't just say, oh, just because people got access to this book of Elders of Zion, that's why there was such a slaughter of Jews and the World War II happened. Okay. There were a lot of things that played out.
Factors, but that one factor, you know, does matter. If that book never was released, if those ideas were not propagated in the society amongst the elite circles and then transposed down to the masses, you know, maybe we wouldn't have had a World War II.
That's probably unlikely, but I get your point. Anyway, if you have an opinion on it, comment below. Join the organization. This is Trax News.